So we're going to do some more detail on the path of the sun. This is where we left off the notes, but I'm going to go back and review for a moment what we had last time we were in class. And we had these 4 dates where we wanted to know about what the sun is doing. So on March 21st, the sun rises due east, and the sun is directly over the equator. And on June 21st, it rises the farthest north of east it gets, and the sun is directly over the Tropic of Cancer, and so on. Just remember that this chart is here, and you can always refer back to it. So the general path of the sun is that the sun rises in the east, and it reaches its highest point at noon, and it sets in the west. Exactly where it is depends on the date. Okay? It doesn't rise straight east, it's just in the eastern sky. And on June 21st, for example, it rises at its farthest point north of east. Now, where the sun ends up at noon depends on both the date and the location. So, for example, we'll go back to June 21st. Okay, if we look at our chart, the sun at noon is overhead if you're at the Tropic of Cancer. So we're going to have to be able to look at paths like this and determine things like possible location and the date. So just for reference, this point right here is the sunrise, because the sun is just on the horizon here. Then over the course of the morning, the sun's going to go up this way. All right. And then it reaches its highest point at noon. And it comes down in the sky over here. All right. And then this is sunset. And that sun goes below the horizon. We can't see it. So how to tell the date? All you look at is the sunrise position. It doesn't matter what the sun's doing at noon or whatever to tell the date. Just look at sunrise. And remember, it rises farthest north of east on June 21st, or the south of east on December 21st. And due east on September 21st or March 21st. And you can't tell those two apart. Here are some examples. Now, all I'm going to look at is the sunrise position right there. Where did the sun come up? And when it's here, here's east. It's on the north side of that. We're going to say that that is June 21st. Because the sun rises north of east. Now, if I look at the sunrise position here, oh, it's north of east again. Right? So no matter what the sun is doing, here it's going this way, here it's going way up here, it's still June 21st because the sun rises north of east. And then here, the sun's right on east. So that could be September 21st or March 21st. Because the sun rises due east. All right. Now, as we go down here, now how to tell your location. So now we know the date, we just look at where the sun rises. For the location, there's a few things we're going to look for. If Polaris, the North Star, is shown, it's easy because your latitude equals the altitude of Polaris. So this example is really easy. All right. Here's Polaris 48 degrees up in the sky. So your latitude is equal to 48 degrees north latitude. All right. Now, to tell the northern versus the southern hemisphere, you look at the way the path tilts. What I mean by that is here I am in the east and I'm going up this way. So I just draw an arrow in showing which way it's tilting, like so. All right. And so if the path tilts to the south, like this one is tilting towards the south, you're in the northern hemisphere. Okay, we're in the northern hemisphere. We always have to look south to see the sun at noon. It never gets as far north as we are. If the path tilts to the north, you're in the southern hemisphere. Okay, so whichever way it tilts, you are in the opposite hemisphere. So we draw in our little arrow for this. It's tilting up this way. All right, and I'm going to say it's tilting to the south, so I'm in the northern hemisphere. And for this one, an arrow, and it's going up this way. All right, and I'm going to say I'm in the southern hemisphere. Because it tilts north. So I'm tilting over toward the north. I'm in the southern hemisphere. Now for the date, remember we just go back and look and see where the sunrise position is. All right. So the sunrise here is south. Oops, the date, excuse me, is December 21st. Because sunrise is south of east. All right, and if I look at this one, the sunrise is still south of east. So it's still December 21st. So even though these paths look different, it's the same date. And it kind of fits together here because in the northern hemisphere, December is winter. And if you look, this arc is not very high in the sky, so the sun stays low, and it's not in the sky for very long, so you're going to have a short day. Here, we're in the southern hemisphere, and see how long the sun stays in the sky, so you're going to have a much longer day there, and it's their summer, so it makes sense. Now, if the sun is overhead, you can't be in New York State. Because the sun never gets this far north, so it's never going to be overhead. It only gets up to the Tropic of Capricorn. If it's June 21st, the sun is over the Tropic of Cancer. December 21st, over the Tropic of Capricorn. And on March or September 21st, it'll be equator. So if it's overhead, it's going to be one of these 3 days, the way we're doing it in this class. So here's an example. North or south? Let's look at the way it tilts. It's tilting this way. Okay, so slightly to the north. So we're going to be in the southern hemisphere. Because we're tilting north. Now the date we look at, we circle this point right here. So the date is, we're in the south again, so December 21st. Sunrise is south of east. All right, so therefore we must be in December. And then our exact location, the sun goes right over the person's head on December 21st. December 21st, it has to be the Tropic of Capricorn. Relax a little bit, we're going to talk about our shadows. So here's the sun here, and it's shining down on this guy, and he's blocking the sun back here. So the shadows point away from the sun. And when the sun is low, I get this big long shadow. When the sun is higher in the sky, the shadow is shorter. So the lower the sun, the longer the shadow. Now this last page in your notes is just a flow chart that tells you what to do. All right. So when you see one of these arcs, the first thing you're going to do is look at the sunrise position and figure out the date. If it's due east, you know it's going to be September or March 21st. Then you look for the location. If Polaris is present, you're kind of done. You just write down what the latitude is. If it's not, figure out which way it tilts. And if the path tilts south, you're in the northern hemisphere. Path tilts north, you're in the southern hemisphere. If the sun goes straight overhead, you got to figure out the location based on your date. And it's either going to be Tropic of Capricorn if the date is December 21st, Tropic of Cancer if the date is June 21st, and it's going to be equator if it's March or September 21st.